Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Golden Astrologer Podcast. This is Deb McBride, and I am with you recording this on Sunday, the 26th of July in the year 2026. And lots going on again. Lots and lots going on. First of all, today, two things I want to say: that Saturn has gone retrograde. And I mentioned this on last week's podcast. And so Saturn is in Aries, as we know, and it's moved quite a distance in Aries, considering it just really, it went in last year, but it really went in this year. And it is now at 14 degrees, 44 minutes, and that is where it went retrograde. And it will be retrograde for a bunch of months until December. And we will experience the slowing down of things. You know, I find that when Saturn goes retrograde, it asks us to take our time with our commitments and our responsibilities and take them seriously, you know. If you are starting something new right now, sometimes the best method of proceeding, of going forward, is about stepping one step at a time and not rushing to get somewhere, okay? Because if you're starting something around now under the retrograde phase of Saturn, when it's making its station, then you are saying, I'm taking this very seriously, and therefore I'm doing this one step at a time, and I'm going to give it my full attention. And that could go for any project, any new job, a relationship. I've started relationships under Saturn going retrograde, and it just meant to take things very slowly and keep your eyes wide open. And sometimes that's the best laid groundwork for whatever you are doing. Isn't it better to do things the right way and the focused and committed way, the Saturn way? And so I think that's really important to notice the energy that you're working with and how they operate and support you, the energies you're working with and how they're supporting you. And Saturn going retrograde is supporting us in a very particular, focused, committed, slow way. Okay, so we take our things one step at a time. We take all our steps and all our thoughts and everything, you know, with great seriousness and one step at a time. So Saturn likes it that way. And so we're honoring Saturn as we move things forward in new projects and partnerships and things. Yes, you can move things forward even if Saturn's going retrograde, because right now we've got Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto retrograde. And Mercury's direct, but it's really something that, you know, in the background, the longer phase transits from the outer planets, their retrogrades are going to take much longer. And so we can't worry about starting something new. You know, that's one thing under Mercury retrograde or Venus or Mars. And I really find Venus and Mars to be particularly hard to start something new under. So you don't want to do that because, well, we're going to get to them later this year and early next year. But that's another whole phase. But, you know, when you start getting into planets that are retrograde for 5 months or so, you really do need to just go on with your life and just notice the energies at the time you're starting something. The other thing that's big news that just happened in the last hour is that the nodes have changed signs. And this only happens once every year and a half. So the last time they changed signs was a year and a half ago. And this is very important. This was during that early part of 2025 when so much was changing. And, you know, Mars was retrograde and the nodes were changing signs and a lot was going on back then. And they have moved out of Pisces and Virgo into Aquarius and Leo. So, you know, the nodes move backwards. So the north node's at 2959 Aquarius as we speak, as I speak, and the south node is at 2959 Leo. And so what does this tell us? Well, it's saying you can rely on your creativity because you're like, you know it like the back of your hand, and you just sort of take that and bring it forward into community and out into the world and into your long-term goals and projects. And take your creativity and move. It's not all about focusing on the creativity. It's taking the creativity you already have, you already know, and taking it out into the world and bringing it to a wider audience. Because Aquarius rules groups, communities, and our long-term goals and the future. Aquarius rules the future. And, in relationships, my teacher used to say that, you're popular if you have the South Node in the 5th house or in Leo, you're popular on every planet. You can be popular on any planet, and you've had many lifetimes of popularity and success and renown and fame and all that juicy, glamorous stuff. But you really want to be out of the drama and into some solid friendships and be friends with your love partner. So they aren't just the love partner, South Node in Leo. You don't want it to just be a love partner. You want them to be your friend as well. And that's where this energy is most important. The North Node in Aquarius is saying you've got to be besties with your love partner, and that's when it works. That's when it works, And Aquarius North Node really enhances the themes of community being important, and seek a community now. It's going to be really fulfilling for all of us to seek out community, create new communities, join new communities, maybe leave old communities and join new ones. But community is very important under the North Node in Aquarius. But don't worry about your creativity. It's all there, and you don't have to overly focus on it, and you don't have to get into dramatic relationships, love relationships. You just, use the experience you have from your old relationships, other relationships you've had, and take it into community and friendship. And that's what's really important there. But our friend the sun is now at 4 degrees Leo. So it went into Leo the other day, as I had explained last week, and the sun is now in that cosmic basket, along with 4 degrees Neptune at Aries, 4 degrees Aries, 4 degrees Uranus in Gemini, 4 degrees Pluto in Aquarius, and that means the sun is opposing Pluto and sextiling Uranus and trining Neptune. And so it's right in there with Jupiter. And so here's what's going to get interesting. Monday, tomorrow, the 27th, Sun will oppose Pluto at 2:55 a.m. Eastern Time. So that's going to be about midnight my time tonight, a little before. And then after that, at 3:36 a.m., see how close in time they are, 2:55, 3:36, it's 40 minutes or so, the Sun will trine Neptune. And then the Sun will later in the day at 5:36 p.m. This will sextile Uranus. So it's touching all the outer planets tomorrow, the Sun. And this is just as we've experienced Jupiter a week ago doing the same thing, opposing Pluto, trining Neptune, sextiling Uranus. Jupiter was doing the same thing a week ago, last Monday. So a week later, we have the Sun taking the same path, and then the Sun will join Jupiter on Wednesday, the 29th, and that is at 8:18 a.m. Eastern Time. The Sun will conjunct Jupiter. This is a once-a-year event. We have the Sun conjunct Jupiter. Last year, it was in the sign of Cancer. This year, it's in the sign of Leo. And because this is a cosmic basket time, the Sun is plugging into those planets and plugging into Jupiter and is enlightening us and giving this whole basket vitality and life and energy and fortitude and all the good, wonderful, juicy things that the Sun in Leo brings, because this is the Sun's time of year. It loves to be in Leo because it rules Leo, right? So, if you are a person who has Sun-Pluto opposition in your astrological chart, this is a recurrence for you. So feel the energies of the day. Feel into what it means for you individually. How does this, if you have Sun-Pluto opposition, how does this resonate with your life? What does it bring forward? Is it power struggles? Is it relationship dramas? Is it deep transformational experiences, breakthroughs. This is a great time for breakthrough. I think it's a great time for breakthrough as, the sun reaches Pluto and then eventually touches Jupiter in these next days. Now, Jupiter's already at 5 degrees, 51 minutes. So that means by the time we get to Wednesday, Jupiter's going to be at 6 degrees in Leo. And what does that say to us? Well, Wednesday's a special day because Wednesday we have a full moon. And this is a powerful, powerful, powerful full moon because this isn't any old full moon. Before we get into anything, this is the full moon that opens up the door to the eclipse period. So once this full moon happens, things start rolling in eclipse energy, okay? So you're going to start feeling that energy building up for the eclipses. The first one in a couple weeks, it will be a new moon. But that new moon in Leo isn't that's not involved in all of this right now. It's its own thing in eclipse, and we'll talk about that later on, in the next couple weeks. Right now, we're focusing on the full moon that swings open the door. So you'll feel the energy because I remember the last set of eclipses, it was like plowing through mud. And then when the eclipse finished, and then the aspect lunation after the eclipse happened, then I felt everything lift. That's when it lifts. So now we're going to go into the eclipses. We're going to feel the energy shift into eclipse mode. And this is a very profound full moon that's giving us a deep, introspective, transformative time. Okay? So full moons are always about something that might be ending, but it may be something that we're bringing to fruition because it's full. And the sun and Jupiter are going to be on one end of that full moon, and the moon and Pluto are going to be on the other end of the full moon. So this is we're not playing games here. The Jupiter-Pluto opposition is enough. It's already enough transformation, opening the door to transformation, seeing transformation, intending transformation, because I told you to set your intentions during this cosmic basket, right? So here's now the sun and the moon coming in to join them and putting an extra stamp on that whole arrangement. Wow. And, yes, the planets are at 4 degrees, but 6 degrees is darn close enough. It's close enough, No, Pluto will not be at 6 degrees. It will not be joining anyone at 6 degrees. But remember that Pluto is going to receive the moon earlier that day. So the moon is going to conjunct Pluto at 6:08 a.m. Eastern Time, and then the sun will conjunct Jupiter at 8:18 a.m. Eastern Time, so like a little over 2 hours later. And then the moon is going to oppose Jupiter first at 10:27 a.m. and by 10:36 a.m. the moon is going to oppose the sun. So the full moon happens at 10:36 a.m. and it's all going to be over by Wednesday morning, but but really what's happening is there's this intense dynamic of the full moon, but the full moon playing into the cosmic basket and playing into the Jupiter-Pluto opposition. Yes, Jupiter and Pluto are now waning. Jupiter's moving forward, but this is highlighting it, and this is, bouncing right in there. And it's profound because Pluto's always asking for transformation. And when the full moon, even if this basket wasn't happening and Jupiter wasn't there, the full moon is landing on Pluto. So it's got an extra punch of transformative power and intensity and passion. And what do you want to change and transform in your life? Because this is not something that's easy and flowing and moving and just sort of, oh yeah, it's a beautiful full moon outside, which it probably will be. But remember, we are dancing with Pluto in the underworld because he's retrograde. And so things may occur to us that are profoundly about the underworld and about the transformations we can effect right now. If you're bored with your life, do something a little risky. Jupiter's saying, do something a little risky. Jupiter Pluto is very intense and powerful. And it's about owning our power on a very deep level, very deep level. So be with yourself. Do some contemplating, do some journaling, do some meditating, go schedule a session for things like breath work or, anything that could be very dramatic and very powerful for your life. You could schedule an astrology session with me. You could schedule a Reiki session with me. You could schedule some very deep regression work. Pluto's great for regression work with someone. So that's along the lines that I would suggest taking the ball and running with. Something profound that's going to make a difference in your life and that's going to sort of say, okay, things are not the same after this, right? So there are energies available to us that are asking us to, get deep, get transformative, go get your power back in any situation. Go transform a situation. If you don't like the way it's going, transform it. What can you do to transform it? Sit with yourself. Understand that. Also on that day, as if that's not enough happening, Venus and Mars are going to square, and they've been dancing around each other in a square for a number of days and maybe a week or so, but Venus is in Virgo and she's squaring Mars in Gemini, and that will be 3:10 a.m. on Wednesday the 29th. They're both going to be at 21 degrees of those signs, Virgo and Gemini. And if you have anything at 21 degrees of Virgo or 21 degrees Gemini or 21 Sag or 21 Pisces, you're going to feel this. This is going to be locking right in those mutable signs, right? And so Venus and Mars are an interesting relationship because when we hear Venus and Mars, what do we think right away? Relationships. The male and the female, the masculine and the feminine, the balance of the polarities and the balance of, where we receive and where we take and where we give and where we receive and how we do all of that, right? Because Mars is going to go out and get, Venus is going to sit and receive. And it's not like the feminine doesn't do anything. She just sits around waiting. She embraces and receives, but she also takes initiative when she is in alignment, energetically and intuitively in alignment. And that's the feminine. But when Venus and Mars get together, remember there was a time not long ago when Venus and Mars were together and it was really intense and it was a little hard. And I don't think this is always that sexy aspect we're looking for unless we're, already being sexy in our lives. And it could initiate a relationship. Venus is in Virgo, for Pete's sake. It's not her best place, right? She's a little more shy there. She's got to focus on other things. So I don't think you should go around expecting, fireworks. And I feel like you should be observant and also cautious on how you use your assertiveness as we go into Wednesday, because things are liable to transform before your eyes and start a transformative ball rolling. So if you're in a relationship and there's a heated argument, Mars square Venus, Venus square Mars, then you could easily start a ball rolling you didn't want to start. Remember, it's a full moon. Remember, there are sparks around the sun and Jupiter and the moon and Pluto. And so be aware of what you're doing. It's asking us to be very conscious of our actions that day. And Mars is the action planet. And so you don't want to go in and trample your relationship that you're having. You don't want to destroy what you've built. So it could be a little rough around the edges. So I think it's important to really be paying attention to who you're talking to, what you're saying to them, what it feels like, and stay close to your feelings and your gut. Be very aware of how you're interacting with people. Okay, so this is very important. It is on the same day as the full moon. It is on the same day as the Jupiter Pluto gets triggered by the full moon, and it is on the same day that the eclipse period opens. So this is another hot aspect. I do remember Venus and Mars being more difficult than I wanted them to be, so let's not just assume that it's going to get us into some delightful things. It could, but just be aware of who you're talking to, how you're talking to them, your own behavior, your own actions, your decisions, the decisions you're making, and how important they are for every day, as we move through this. And that's a hot day. That's a hot day. There's a lot of aspects going on. I would say tomorrow and then Wednesday. Wednesday's probably the hotter day. So those are the two biggest hot days of the week, right? And so now we have all of this happening as Mercury is direct and as Saturn is going retrograde. And it was a sort of a double station, but not in the same way it was last November, because both Saturn and Mercury went direct within a day of each other. And that was kind of disruptive. It was really very disruptive last November at the end of the month. So I would think that we need to just sort of observe very carefully and be careful about the decisions we make. Here's an example. My friend Monica here. So this was at the end of Mercury retrograde, between like Wednesdays and Thursday. And she Wednesday, I think it was, while Mercury was stationing, stopping in the sky, she had seen an ad for a place to get a massage, and they were doing like something wooden rollers on the back of your calves. And she's got calf pain, and she wanted to get this done. But when she got to she made an appointment, she got to the massage place, and she's telling them she was looking forward to getting her legs massaged. And they said, oh no, it's not that. So why did they put a picture on the ad of getting your legs massaged? Now, at that point, when you want your legs to be done because you got your legs in pain or achy or something, and you want them to work on your legs, if they're saying, no, we're not going to do that, we're doing your stomach, they told her. We only work on the stomach. Well, hell, right there. This is so Mercury retrograde stationing. You've got an ad. They're showing one thing. You show up. It's a bait and switch kind of situation. Oh, no, we don't do it there. What? Then why are you showing the legs? That's a whole different body part. There's different organs there. I would have said, no, thank you. Oh, well, no, I don't want that. But she said, okay, I'm here. I already agreed to it. I'm saying yes. All right, they can do that. Well, guess what? Because she didn't know that it was going to be the stomach, she had just eaten before she went. So she didn't tell them that either. These are all bad decisions. And she's just like, why? I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know what I was thinking. She's thinking she was getting a leg massage. And so when you find out it's not a leg massage, you say, well, here's the picture, and that's what I was expecting. And I'm sorry, I don't want to do this. Or can we reschedule when you are going to do a leg massage? Or can we do something else like a facial? Because she just ate, and they went really hard into her stomach and her gut and that whole area, which, I'm sorry, I think that you have to be really cautious and gentle when you're working on such a sensitive area of someone's body, and then you should talk to them about whether they've just eaten. Well, she didn't feel well after that. The rest of the night she didn't feel well, and then they got in the car the next morning and went to Dota up the mountain where we went last July. And she got really sick. She was violently ill the whole way up there. And she said, I felt like there was this knot in my stomach. Well, of course she did. So this is all a big making a bad decision after being told wrong information. And then the only way you're going to right the wrong is say, no. Okay, no. I thought it was this. That's not what I wanted. I'm not, no, no. And we're trying to be, she's a Libra. She's trying to be nice. She doesn't want to raise a kerfuffle there. But this is a really great example of why I say be conscious of your decisions because they have lasting effects. So even when Mercury is finished being retrograde, we're not out of the woods. You know, I was saying this on Friday on Instagram, on my Golden Astrologer Instagram, that this is, you know, we've still got administrative things going on. We still have decisions to make. We still have things that are topsy-turvy because we're like in the Mercury retrograde hangover, or, you know, it's not out of its shadow yet. And it won't be until it gets past where it went retrograde. So it's going to be some days before that happens. And we still need to pay a lot of attention to the details, okay? So she was being a nice Libra. She was being polite. I would have said no. You promised me a leg massage. I don't want my stomach. No, no, no. This is not a good plan. So, okay, we chalk it up to lessons and experience, right? The moon will leave Aquarius and go into Pisces Friday, the 31st of July at 8:14 a.m. Eastern Time. And Mercury finally leaves its storm on Friday. And so see how you're feeling over this next week as we move past Mercury going direct. And this is the end of July. This is the last week of July. If you can believe it, it just doesn't it doesn't register with me. It's like, oh, in a week from now it will be August. It's going to be a whole new month. Okay. So the rest of the week is relatively quiet, but I think there's going to be a lot stirred up from, you know, Monday and Wednesday and the energies that are now heading towards eclipses. And when we start to think about moving into the eclipse period, we know there are do's and don'ts for eclipses. And there's the eclipse corridor, which starts the 12th under the solar eclipse, the new moon at 20 Leo, and it ends on the 28th when we are in Virgo. And it's a Virgo Pisces eclipse with the moon in Pisces when it's a lunar eclipse. So that's the corridor in which we're playing with from the 12th to the 28th of August. And we don't want to do brand new things during that time. So I know you're tired of me, right? You're tired of me saying, well, don't start something new into Mercury retrograde. And then, oh, it's eclipse season. Don't do that. You know, it's... When can you start something? You just got to go on with your life. It's just really launches during eclipse corridors aren't fruitful. They usually miscarry. So do your launches now. Figure out what you need to do. Keep going. Keep moving forward. Maybe take a little break between the eclipses or just live your life and do your things during eclipses. You know, we're not always launching things. We're often just working on, you know, our work and our projects and our relationships and our families and our homes and our hobbies and our creativity. And what else do we need to be doing, right? So I wouldn't worry about that eclipse just yet. Let's see how these are going to shake out. This is going to be very powerful eclipse season because the second one is going to be square Uranus. So that full moon in Pisces and Virgo will be very early Virgo, very early Pisces. They are going to be squaring the planet Uranus. And even through the eclipse periods, the outer planets are not really moving very far away from each other. So Pluto and Neptune and Uranus are still going to be in the 3 to 5 degree range. Even if, you know, Neptune's at 3 because it's retrograded back to 3 from 4, they're not all 4, but this is a definite dynamic that continues. Jupiter will have moved on, and Jupiter and Saturn will start speaking nicely to each other because they're both in fire signs and they'll be talking in a trine, right? A very smooth aspect. But Jupiter will have moved on from the cosmic basket, but the other outer planets will still be talking to each other for a long time. And, you know, frankly, it's been intense, but for me, I have to say, I don't feel like it's been anxiety producing. You know, I think that the relationship and the smoothness between Pluto and Uranus and Neptune, that smoothness is really supportive. It's a basket, it's a cradle. What do we think of? We're being rocked in a cradle, we're being soothed, we're being held. And while Jupiter, yes, Jupiter is exciting opposite Pluto, I don't feel like this is giving us cause to be alarmed. And maybe, I don't know how it's affecting everybody in the world, but there are certain qualities that may be complicated for people and maybe a little bit angst ridden. But for the most part, I have to say, and this is, my son is right involved in this. My son in Aquarius is right plugged into this. And I have to say, it's been a very lovely opening for me. And yeah, I'm doing all the work, so I'm benefiting in that way. But I don't feel, and I don't want to speak too soon, especially with this full moon coming up. I don't feel that it's knocked me off my feet, this cosmic basket. And maybe people are on the internet, I don't know, on social media saying, well, what was it supposed to do? Wasn't it supposed to bring us something? It's their smooth aspects. You have to take initiative. This is why I was telling people to set intentions, because you have to take initiative during these times. If you don't, you're going to be like, well, that was a bust. Nothing's happened. Well, because you didn't use this soft energy as an opportunity. You have to call in opportunities. You have to look for opportunities and, use the energy to set intention for new opportunities. So it's going to be an interesting full moon. It's going to be a little bit wild. I like this energy with the sun moving into this basket. It's always good. The sun heals. When the sun moves over something, it's a healing energy. It's a healing force. If you don't feel well, go sit outside in the sun. Of course, as long as it's reasonable temperatures and you're not, completely burning. But I've done things where when I haven't felt well, sat in the sun and just let my body soak up the vitamin D and felt so much better afterwards. It's our life force. It's our vitality. The sun is very important. And, the sun is how we get into astrology in the first place, right? We get into it because of the sun sign. And your sign, when people ask you what your sign is, it's your sun. And the first thing we learn is about our sun. You don't learn where Neptune is in your chart. I don't know my sun sign, but I know where Neptune is. That's kind of funny, right? No, you know where your sun is because you know the month and the birth date you have, and the sun is regular. So the sun is regular. It's always in Leo this time of year, right? And you know what? The sun is so regular, and we have to be grateful for that. This is the wonderful thing about the sun. This is why it is our vitality, our life force. It makes our crops grow. It makes our food, happen for us. It makes everything happen for us. And it stops us from freezing to death. It's regular. It gets up in the morning and it goes to sleep at night. It gets up in the morning and it sets. It rises and it sets. It does the same job every day. And that is something to be grateful for, to know that the sun does this every day. And there is this regularity in what we experience with the sun. I love the sun. It's an amazing force of nature. If you would like to experience your astrological chart, you can come with me on a journey of looking at it. Just click book now in my profile on Instagram or book online on my website, thegoldenastrologer.com. And you can join me in a wonderful session for yourself. Or you can join me in Reiki. Reiki is a beautiful experience of healing, of clearing of old energies, of asking old patterns to leave you, to breaking contracts that you consciously didn't agree to, all sorts of good stuff. And I welcome you to either of those. And then there's also expansion mentoring if you'd like to join me for 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months. That will always be beneficial to go over a long period of time and work with all the tools I have in my toolbox. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a beautiful, sunny week ahead. Enjoy the Leo energy. Enjoy the full moon. Tell me your stories. Text me on Instagram. Write to me, info@thegoldenastrologer.com or deb@debmcbride.com. Let me know how you're doing, what this cosmic basket has given to you, and what you're grateful for this time. Thank you for listening. I'm grateful for all of you. Many blessings to each of you. Have a beautiful week.